Break out those blenders, boys and girls. It's time for pureed soups, next on Urban Kitchen Revolution. Hi, and welcome back to Urban Kitchen Revolution. I'm Chef James Hudson. Today we're going to be talking about pureed soups and working on the fundamentals of pureed soup through the production of Tomato Basil Bisque. So what exactly are pureed soups? Well, just as the name implies, a pureed soup is really any soup that you put through a blender or through a food mill to make smooth and have a nice round mouthfeel, and obviously as few chunks as humanly possible. From a chilled vichyssoise to, say, a cream of asparagus soup to our favorite here, tomato basil, they all share this one thing in common. They are in fact pureed after the cooking process is done. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Today's Tomato Basil Bisque is one of the stalwarts of any decent restaurant kitchen and now can be a part of your home kitchen. The ingredients before us are super easy and super minimal, and really we can throw this soup together in about 30 minutes. So let's get right into it. Tomato Basil Bisque really is only about 5 or 6 key ingredients. We're going to start with some onions here that we're going to dice, just like we learned in episodes past. We're just going to cut down the middle, cut these tops off. I'm going to start with about a pound of onion, okay? I'm just going to take off the peel real quick. Set that aside in our little waste bowl. Same thing for the other one. Off with the top, cut down to the root. Peel off. And like we practiced before, we're going to take our knife perpendicular to the onion itself. Right down all the way, and then little 1/4 inch dice. Again. A little slower. Again, see how the knife is perpendicular to the onion itself. All the way through, and then slice right down. One last time. Like I said, about a pound of onion. We're going to put this on medium heat with a little bit of olive oil to sweat these onions down. And here we go. Again with our rondeau, splash of olive oil, just enough to barely coat the bottom of the pan. Because we're just doing a light sweat, it doesn't really matter if the pan is hot or not. We've got a cold pan here, we're just going to let them go, like I said, at medium heat. And while we're doing that, finish up the rest of the product. For this, we also have a little bit of garlic. We're going to take that and mince it like we learned before. Knife on top. Give it a quick smash. Then with your hand as a fulcrum, just a nice good chop. Again, it doesn't have to be completely minced. We just want to release the aromatics in this. And then we are going to be pureeing it all anyway, so it doesn't really matter if it's completely even or not. We'll just put that right there for right now. Put this to one side. Also take our basil. We got about an ounce of basil, about 30 grams. Got a little bit of stem still left on it. A big piece like this, go ahead and throw away, but if it's got some regular stem, that's no big deal. Just going to roll it all up for a chiffonade cut, like we learned earlier in the series. Just again, some quick ribbons, which will go in at the very end of, right before we puree the soup. Put that right there. Set this to the side. Now, no tomato soup worth a damn is going to be complete without, of course, good tomatoes. I personally like to use San Marzano tomatoes. Cento is a great brand for these. There are other brands on the market, whatever is available in your grocers, but San Marzanos come to you at the height, canned San Marzanos rather come to you at the height of freshness, already peeled, ready to go. All we have to do is just sort of crush them up in a bowl. If you have access to your own garden and some beautiful tomatoes, then by all means absolutely use this in your bisque. Likewise, if you have access to an outstanding farmer's market in your local area and can get your hands on some really good tomatoes, then please do that absolutely as well. I've got about 1,600 grams or 3.5 pounds worth of tomatoes here. Again, with the cans, just for your own safety and everyone else's safety, cut the cans, the top of the can completely off. Don't leave a little flange hanging on them. That will be a nice little, well, not nice at all, a potential horrible cut if you do not do so. So we're just going to take these two tomatoes, these two cans of tomatoes, dump them in this bowl here, and with your clean, freshly washed hands, we're going to dip down in here and just start crushing the tomatoes. I like to put a hand over top of my hand, just in case we got any stragglers that want to come up and bite us in the face or get all over our shirt, which is no good at all. And like I said, just again, a nice, light crushing. Try to just feel around, make sure you got them all done and ready to roll. And that feels like it's about it. You can hear behind me, the onions are just starting to come to temp and heat up. So all of our mise en place is actually ready to go for this soup. So let's cruise over to the stove now and make this bad boy up. Okay, so we're back. We're over here at the stove now. The onions are starting to become lightly translucent. This is about when, and like I said, heat at about medium right here. We're going to go ahead and add our garlic at this point. Like I mentioned before, we want to wait to add the garlic until the onions are just about translucent, because we don't want to burn the garlic. We just want a nice, really want to release the aromatics of the garlic. So we're going to stir this and cook this garlic out for about a minute, minute and a half is really all you need. At this point we can go ahead and add our salt and pepper. We're going to again start with our usual 8 and 8. So it's 3, 4. About 8 to 10 twists of the pepper mill. This also allows the pepper to bloom out a little bit and fully develop in flavor. Just about another 30-40 seconds and we'll be ready to add our vegetable stock. Okay, the garlic is really starting to bloom. You can really smell it now coming forward. The onions have become translucent. At this point we're going to stop the sweating process by adding just a little bit of vegetable stock that we made back in a few episodes ago. Again, the recipe is available on the website as well as our episode guide. I'm going to Put a little bit in there, a little bit of vegetable stock. We're going to turn the heat up to medium high. Go ahead and add our tomatoes that we've already pre-crushed. Give that a good stir. So we've started with about maybe a cup, 8 ounces of vegetable stock. We'll probably add a little bit more. We're using it not only to fortify the flavor of the soup, but also to get the correct consistency. And we won't really have the full consistency down, of course, until we have pureed the soup itself. So we're going to add our last little secret ingredient. I like to put a little bit of heavy cream, not much, maybe an ounce, 30 grams or so, into my tomato basil bisque, just because it gives it a nice fuller texture and flavor to the soup. That little bit of fat really kind of makes a big difference. So about an ounce of heavy cream or so, like I said, maybe 30, 35 grams. And that is that. So we're going to basically let this come to a simmer, turn this down to low, medium, low, let it go for about half an hour, add our basil, and then puree it. So we'll come back when that gets going. Okay, we're back. The soup has been simmering very gently for about 30 minutes, allowing all the tomatoes to fully cook out. And now we're just going to go ahead and finish the soup off. We've got our basil right here. We're just going to dump that in. Just give that a quick stir. Allow that to just get fully incorporated. Some of that basil essence to start to permeate the soup. And now we're going to go into the pureeing process. For pureeing soups, I like to use my handy dandy stick blender. I prefer it for a couple of reasons. The main one being I can puree my stuff directly in the pot that I'm cooking it in, which allows me not to have to transfer back and forth between bowls and blender tops and all that sort of stuff. If you don't have a stick blender, you can certainly use a regular blender. I just caution you to pretty please only fill the blender about halfway up, and to start that blender on the lowest setting possible and gradually bring the speed up. That way the soup doesn't explode out of the blender and all over you, causing massive damage to your face, arms, and chest, as well as your kitchen itself. So let's go ahead and just start the blender process. For a stick blender, you submerge it all the way in and just turn it on and just start stirring it around. As you can see, during the blending process, it's starting to get a little over thick, so I'm going to add just a little bit of our vegetable stock back to the mix, maybe another cup or so, and continue going. Nice and pureed. I'm going to adjust for seasoning right now. Take a little taste off the back of the spoon here. Needs just a little bit more salt and some more pepper. And there we go, tomato basil bisque. Let's go ahead and serve this up. Okay, just that quick, we have made tomato basil bisque. Let's go ahead and serve some up here. Take a couple ladlefuls into the bowl. Yeah, one more for good measure. I happen to have some fresh basil tips for a nice little garnish. And there we go, tomato basil bisque. Let's give it a shot. Really, really nice, really good acid component, very rounded, very flavorful, outstanding. One of my favorites for sure. And that's that. That's pureed soups and tomato basil bisque. So that's it for pureed soups this week. Join us next time for when we delve into vinaigrettes. As always, you can check me out on the web at urbankitchenrevolution.com, where you can find episode guides, recipes for everything we've done here, as well as product reviews and other musings. I can also be found on Facebook at Urban Kitchen Revolution, as well as on Twitter at James Hudson UKR. Thanks again for joining me on this little adventure, and don't forget to join the revolution. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.